Hello everyone, it's Skil here from the Grim Reapers, and today I'll be going through a short hardware review and my initial impressions video for the DOF Reality P6 motion platform. Before I go any further, there are a couple of things I want to mention. First, whilst I go through the review, I'll be playing some footage in the background of me using the DOF Reality P6 whilst flying a short mission in the DCS Apache out of Bagram on the Afghanistan map. Second, this review is based on my own opinions and experiences using the P6 specifically for helicopters. Those of you who have seen my recent review video for the Next Level Racing HF8 haptic feedback pad will know that I have always thought of haptic feedback devices as somewhat of a gimmick, which would never be able to add a decent level of immersion to my flight sim experience. Well, the HF8 proved me wrong. I have never tried a motion platform before, so I was very interested to see how it would compare to the haptic pad with regard to the feedback and immersion it could add to my flight sim experience. For the purposes of full disclosure, DOF Reality sent me the P6 motion platform for the purposes of this review. They didn't ask for any favourable comments, only that, as always, I give my honest opinions and feedback. I'll quickly go over my system and game settings. I only ever fly DCS in VR. I'm currently using the Pimax Crystal Super. My system specs are Intel i9 13900K, 64GB of RAM, and an RTX 5090 GPU. Here are my in-game settings. So, what is a motion platform? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. In simple terms, it's a platform that moves in response to the telemetry being sent out from the sim. There are a variety of different kinds of motion platforms available on the market, which offer between 2, 3 and 6 degrees of freedom. The degrees of freedom refers to the number of axes along which the platform can move. So for instance, 2 degrees of freedom would only allow movement on the pitch and roll axis, whereas 3 degrees would add the yaw axis. The DOF Reality P6 is a 6 degrees of freedom motion platform, so it can move along all 6 axes of movement. The P6 is a full motion platform and a top tier product from DOF Reality in their professional range. I'll put up some images from the DOF Reality site. I won't go over everything, but I will point out some of the key features. You can pause the video and have a look at the details, or you can go direct to the store site, which I'll put a link for in the description below. The 6 degrees of freedom are pitch, roll, yaw, heave, sway, and surge. The range of motion is 17 degrees, has a speed of up to 75 centimeters a second, and 28 newton meters of torque. The frame is full metal construction, and the rig can support a pilot weight of up to 200 kilograms, although I suspect this limit will have to include any peripherals or HOTAS you have mounted as well. There are lots of optional extras available. I was sent the HOTAS mount kit, lift supports, the emergency stop switch and quick release pedal plates. The pricing shown is correct as of mid-June 2025. The P6 arrived in 2 large and very heavy boxes, with a total weight of about 126.3 kilograms, or a little under 280 pounds. Needless to say, I got a workout getting these boxes up 2 flights of stairs. On opening the large outer boxes, you can see that everything is well packaged in smaller boxes or individually wrapped in an abundance of bubble wrap. This meant that everything arrived in perfect condition. As I talk about the assembly, I'll play a wee montage of me putting everything together. The assembly of the P6 was actually surprisingly easy. All of the tools required were provided in the kit, and although there was no instruction manual provided in the box, the DOF Reality support site has links to very detailed and easy to follow manuals for whichever rig you have, as well as links to helpful assembly videos. There's also a handy little template you can use to make sure you are using the correct screw and bolt lengths. I found that everything went together very well and married up without any issues. The P6 is clearly manufactured to a high standard, with tight tolerances so that everything fits together nicely. Even though the motor and gearbox assemblies are quite heavy, it was no problem at all for a single person to assemble the whole thing. That being said, unless you opted for the transportation wheels for your platform, which I don't have, I would highly recommend assembling the rig where you intend to use it, because once you have it all put together, it is very heavy and would be difficult to move around on its little feet. As I said, the instructions were easy to follow, and using them along with the assembly videos meant that I managed to get the whole platform, minus the seat and HOTAS mounts, assembled in a little over 2 hours. Once it was assembled, everything felt solid, and although DOF Reality have had to use lighter materials to save weight, overall it still feels pretty rugged. Time for a quick test of all 6 degrees of freedom. Once it's all been tested and working, it was time to mount all of the HOTAS mounts and my helicopter controls. As I said, I was sent the HOTAS mount kit, so I had more than enough hardware to mount the basic helicopter controls with ease. There are many mounting points and options for the HOTAS mounts, so you can place the mounts where you need to for your own comfort and ergonomics. I used the Virpil AH64 Collective with the rotor plus base, which you really need to have mounted quite far back in relation to the seat, so I had to adapt and overcome by using a section of extruded aluminium which I bolted to the frame of the platform. This means I still have the HOTAS mount free on that side, for if and when I need to add a normal throttle unit, such as the Orion 2 from Winwing. Whilst it's not really part of the P6 assembly as such, as the P6 doesn't come with the seat, I'll mention a couple of things about fitting a seat now. Like I say, the P6 does not come with a seat, so you'll have to source your own. There are a couple of options available in the DOF Reality store. However, as I have the Next Level Racing Flight Seat Pro, I test fit that to the P6 and it worked very well. I purchased another flight seat from Next Level Racing and got that fit to the P6 without any problems. I'm sure there are lots of options for seats out there that will work very well with the P6. But my only suggestion would be to make sure that you get a seat with sliding rails so you can adjust the seat back and forth as required. When you purchase a P6, DOF Reality will provide you with a license key for Sim Racing Studio software, which is the software that allows the P6 to work with your sim. Thankfully, the software is easy to install and set up, and for me, it was pretty much plug and play. I turned on the 2 control boxes, started the software, and everything just worked. I don't claim to be any kind of expert in using it, and unfortunately I have not had as much time as I would have liked to start tweaking some of the settings, but I have made a couple of minor adjustments. I'll put some images of the basic screens from within the Sim Racing Studio software, although it is worth noting that once you are in DCS, you can set up the options on a per aircraft basis, so the generic settings you see here are not necessarily the ones I use for each aircraft. Now it's finally time to fly with the P6. The first test is how easy is it to get in and out of the seat. Spoiler alert, here is where having a seat on sliders helps. With the seat slid back, it is easy enough to climb onto the platform, even with the right strut of the frame being quite high up. Once you're in the seat, you can slide it forwards into your preferred position. As I said earlier, I only ever fly in VR, so having the controls in the right place is a must. So the P6 with its versatility in mounting options is great. I specifically wanted to try a motion platform with helicopters, as I thought that feeling all of the tiny movements in yaw and surge etc. would be of the most benefit to you in a helicopter. I was not wrong. Flying helos in DCS is great. Flying helos in DCS in VR is fantastic. Flying helos in DCS in VR with the DOF Reality P6 motion platform is priceless. Like I said earlier, I still have a long way to go to get every little setting dialed in, but my god, even with the settings I am currently using, I absolutely love it. Every little yaw or side slip, and you can feel it. If you let the nose or tail drop when trying to hover, and you can feel it. I know on the footage it doesn't look like the platform is moving very much. That's because most of the time it isn't, but it doesn't have to. The slightest movement whilst in VR is enough to trick your brain into matching what your eyes are seeing to what your body is feeling, so much so that you start to believe you're tilted over at 45 degrees or pointing straight down. The P6 can throw you about quickly and violently when it has to, but the real magic for me when flying helicopters is when it gives you the subtle movements, like whilst hovering or taxiing or landing, to name but a few. I have heard that the previous versions of DOF Reality motion platforms suffered from a cogging effect, which I believe is a kind of stuttering feeling through the platform caused by the motors or gears when they are having to move very slowly. Now, as I said at the start of the video, I have never used any motion rig before, so I cannot comment on how it felt before. But using this P6, when the movement is very slow, I can feel the very slight cogging effect. It is certainly not terrible, and I don't know how it compares to previous versions, but it is there, so I feel I have to mention it. It doesn't bother me at all. In fact, for me it almost adds a little bit of immersion for helicopter flying. I know whilst watching this video it's hard to tell because of my miserable Scottish face, but believe me, on the inside I'm giggling like a schoolgirl. In conclusion then, I think the DOF Reality P6 adds a level of immersion to my helicopter flight simulation experience that I simply would never have thought possible for a home flight sim setup. It's almost indescribable the difference it makes being able to feel the aircraft respond to your inputs. I mean, genuinely, the first time I used the P6 flying the Apache in DCS, I was laughing out loud. I appreciate that the P6 is very expensive, but when compared to other 6 degrees of freedom motion platforms available on the market, it is actually very reasonably priced. If you can afford it, I would have no problem in recommending a DOF Reality motion platform for your home flight sim setup. As I say, I am just starting down this rabbit hole of motion platforms and haptic feedback. I have to dial in the settings and will continue to do so, combining the DOF Reality P6 with the Next Level Racing HF8 and Winwing's haptic feedback grips. I plan on coming back with longer term user reviews on the main Grim Reapers channel. In the meantime, I will be keeping you up to date with some day-to-day usage videos on my own YouTube channel, GR Skil. so feel free to head over there and have a watch. I'll put a link in the video description. Anyway, as always, thank you all for taking the time to watch this review, and I'll catch you later.